Kamusta kayo dyan, guys? Let's get the ball rolling. Ayan na guys. Kamusta naman kayo dyan? Pasensya na late tayo nag-start today. Actually, nagkaroon ng misunderstanding. Ayan na naman. It must have been a very tiring year. Just like how I missed yung flight ko ng isang last week dahil nakita ko yung AM, akala kong PM. Ito naman this time, dun sa scheduled interview natin today, yung PM, akala ko AM. Ayan, talaga kailangan na natin ng production team, ng assistant. Yun lang, medyo kulang sa budget pa. But grabe. I think we really overdid things. We went overboard. But I'm extremely grateful, guys, today, reflecting on everything. Kasi akala ko nawala ko na yung passcode ko doon sa cellphone ko. Kadami natin mga burner phones. Biglang, when I was able to retrieve it, I went through the memories and everything that we did throughout the year, and I was extremely grateful dito sa suporta niya and everything we have been doing together dito sa maliit natin na podcast. Today actually we were hoping to have Professor Vicente Rafael from University of Washington, one of the leading historians of Southeast Asia and obviously the Philippines, with us. But apparently PM Saturday sa kanya, so that will be Sunday our time. And as I told you, as much as possible, I try to avoid any kind of work on Sundays because of, we have to have a Sabbath. So I'm trying to see if we can push it to Monday instead. So hopefully Monday, maybe we can have a situation of having Professor Rafael and then also Leloy Claudio medyo back to back before the Christmas proper begins, no? Again, thank you so much sa inyong suporta. Kagabi habang naglalakad tayo dun sa Session Road, because I love walking around dito sa Baguio, librang aircon. Medyo naman mas safe. Hindi ko naman sinasabi na hindi safe ang Cubao, but let's just say I feel safer walking around Session Road than Cubao. And then obviously mga kamets, eto, of course, we had a chance to go around, reflect on things, meet people, great people, amazing people. And then of course nakita ko yung eto na, dumating na naman, punta naman tayo dun sa Jollibee and McDonald's, and sabi ko, ganun talagang mga taga Baguio, di ba? Healthy competition. Yung McDonald's at Jollibee namin been doing well since I basically can remember, visiting Session Roads nung bata pa ako, di ba? So, that's what you call co-opetition, right? Cooperation and competition. I'm all good with competition, I'm saying, all around the world, no problem. But at the same time, I believe in collaboration and cooperation. So I hope 2025 will be even a bigger year in terms of collaboration dahil ang daming mga pwedeng pag-usapan, ang daming bagay na pag-usapan. And I think in that context, habang we're rescheduling itong interview natin, a more deep dive interview natin with some of the leading scholars of Philippine history and Southeast Asian studies, while we're figuring that out, today, balikan natin itong guys. Pulse Asia surveys, very important surveys. I think they tell us a lot about the lay of the land, and right off the bat, let me signpost this. Number one, Sara Duterte and Martin Romualdez are the biggest losers dito sa November survey ng Pulse Asia. Both of them saw significant decline in their approval ratings, and now both of them are really in a precarious situation, assuming any of them, and some would say both of them, have of course their eyes on 2028. In the case of Sara Duterte, obvious naman na from vice presidency, the next logical step will be to run for the presidency unless something happens, she gets impeached or disqualified, or she realizes she's really not up to the task. Pero Duterte yan, I don't think Duterte's have that capacity to really admit or accept or reflect on really yung limitations nila for any serious office beyond their own bailiwick. Although I would always say Davao has so much better people to offer in terms of political leadership, among other things. Wonderful people. Um, so Sara Duterte and Romualdez are the biggest losers. Sara Duterte obviously has been among the leaders when it comes to potentially becoming the next president. So her declining numbers has implications for 2028. At the same time, we also seen the surveys na patok yung pangalan ng mga tulfos, which also can tell you something about what we could face in the coming years and especially come 2028. Pero para sa akin, ang good news din dito here is meron na tayong espasyo, meron na tayong oportunidad, and I think there's now room for the genuine opposition to spread its wings and look at possibilities out there because this looks like a mutual destruction. The Duterte side felt that ang lakas nila dahil Tatay Digong, best president in the solar system, yari si BBM. The loyalist side naman, akala nila, eto naman, mga Duterte, laos na, mahina na sila, wala na silang pera, wala na silang confidential fund, wala na, awanin. Well, it turns out, both sides are losing. Both sides are losing big time. Sorry, just medyo malamig dito. Both sides are losing big time. So if you look at the latest survey by Pulse Asia, the numbers are stark. Because if you remember, Digong, Pinoy, Ramos, Erap, all of these guys, 2 years into office, they had very high approval ratings. Well, Erap's case will eventually be cut short. But if you look at Ramos, Pinoy, and Digong, they had a clear majority approval rating in their earlier years in office. Ngayon, BBM is not doing well. But so is SARA. She's also not doing well. So, according to itong latest surveys na yan, so between November 26 to December 3, so covered na ito lahat ng mga pinag-usapan natin over the past few weeks, especially yung sa impeachment trials, especially yung sa Quadcom. Just a couple of things that were not covered, but nevertheless, I think enough was covered. So, ang approval lang ni BBM is 48%. Only 48%. So he doesn't even have a majority approving of his work. That doesn't bode well for the president. There's a 27% undecided there. And I think a lot of them are yung mga, siguro kakamping mga yan, at yung mga ibang tao na not necessarily impressed with, inflation, some of the basic economic issues. And then, ang disapproval ni BBM is 25%. So actually, if you look at the net approval ratings of BBM, it's 48 minus 25. You're looking at barely 23%. So BBM's net approval is barely a quarter of the voters. Napakababa yan. If you look at Digong, you look at BBM, you look at Ramos, especially even better if you look at the immediate two predecessors of Digong and Aquino. Majority net approval. Net majority approval. Net approval. Now, yung mga bagong ma-excite yung mga DDS natin, tingnan nyo naman ang numbers ni Sara Duterte. Yari din dahil dyan. In fact, Sara Duterte experienced even more decline dito sa mga latest surveys na yan. Her approval rating is 50%, so barely majority. Her disapproval, interestingly, is even bigger than BBM. Her disapproval is 28%. 28% ang nag-disapprove kay Sara and only 50% approve of her. And to think, usually vice presidents do better than presidents because hindi sila yung sinisisi. Pag, the economy is not doing well or may mga kababalagan, usually the buck stops with the president. And the vice president usually mga nagpapakute yan, yan. And we know that for a long time, for 6 or 7 quarters, Sara Duterte always enjoyed a significantly higher approval rating than BBM. Now we see more or less both of them finding themselves in the same territory. An unprecedentedly disturbing territory in terms of their numbers. Sara Duterte has even more disapproval at 28%. So mga siguro Solid North at Kakamping nagsama dito, and 22% ay undecided pa rin sa kanya. So that's 50% minus 28. Ooh, not doing very well. Not doing very well. So, actually, ang net approval ni Sara is 1 point even lower than BBM. So, actually, on net, Sara Duterte is less popular than BBM. And then, things get even more interesting. Ferdinand, Ferdinand din pala pangalan nito eh, Martin Romualdez. His approval is only 25%. Only 25%. His disapproval is even bigger at 32%. So lahat ng mga ka-DDS nagsama-sama dyan. So that's 25 minus 32. That's minus 7 net approval rating. 44% ay medyo undecided sa kanya, and he still lacks a 6% or so in terms of awareness. I mean, these are incredible numbers in terms of looking at talagang mutual destruction po ang nangyari dito, right? You know, this whole Duterte versus Marcos thing is actually hurting both of them big time. Kitang-kita yan, guys. Kitang-kita. You can see really both sides are hurting each other. So now, Sara is less popular than BBM on net. Neta, kasi you have to also take into consideration disapproval. So Sara has 2 points more approval than BBM, but 3 points more disapproval than BBM. So logically, 1 point less. That's and the thing is, actually, BBM perhaps has more room for improvement because he has a 27% undecided versus 22%, right? This is very, very interesting. Now, let's go to the trust rating. Looks even worse. Looks even worse. BBM only has a 47% trust rating. He has a small to no trust of 27%, so that barely gives him a plus 20, kind of big trust. Sara Duterte, more or less the same at 49%, so she doesn't have a majority big trust. Her no trust is 27%. So basically the same level of distrust towards the both. None of them are majority. None of them get majority in terms of trust rating. Both of them also have a significantly low net approval ratings. Now, numbers for Romualdez are also very troubling. He has a 21% only big trust rating. He has a 35% no trust or small trust rating. And 44% are still undecided on him. That's quite consistent throughout. Although I wonder sometimes methodologically how much difference do people make between trust and approval, because I think they kind of bleed into each other. But never mind. Maybe we can talk to our good friends Ronald Ronald Holmes, no? Our former colleague at LaSalle, to discuss this further. So that means, interestingly, the most popular, quote unquote, high-level official in the land is Cheese Escudero as the Senate president. And Cheese Escudero numbers are also not like incredible. He only has a 53% approval, and he has a disapproval of 9%. So actually that puts him at what, 44%, right? 44% net approval. Not very high, not very high. Significantly lower than Tito Soto, from what I can recall, and a number of other Senate presidents in the past. His trust rating, 51% lang big trust, 10% have no trust in him. That gives him a 41%. So your most approved official is Cheese Escudero. Cheese magandang eyebrows Escudero, and even his numbers are far from impressive and way lower than before. But it's just incredible how low the numbers of Sara Duterte and Martin Romualdez are. And Sara Duterte is really not doing well. In fact, the rich is going, baka talunin pa niya si Lenny in terms of disapproval. And to think Lenny was constantly a victim of disinformation, of fake news, ang mga kababalakan, itong mga walang hiyang trolls and all of that. And of course, she was really facing a very hostile president, unlike in the situation right now, whereby medyo kumukuting-kuting lang minsan, di ba? Never say never. So this is very interesting. This is very, very interesting, guys. So just for the regional and demographic breakdown, let's look at it. So when it comes to performance approval ratings, if you look at it, BBM's numbers are good at NCR, well, relatively at 51%. Overall, Luzon, he does well. So talagang solid north natin dito is hindi lang NCR, it's the broader Luzon region. He has a 65% approval rating in Luzon, 48% lang in Visayas. His approval in Mindanao is 14%. 14%. Parang konti. Sino pa ba yung mga taga Mindanao na may gusto pa kay BBM? So, this is where you see the mutual destruction. Talagang bugbog sarado yung numbers ni BBM dahil yung mga pro-Digong at pro-Duterte ay talagang lumaban sa kanya. His numbers among ABC is also very low. This is essentially people like us, which C. Wala naman A and B. A and B, mga gated yan. Hindi kasi, his E is also very low at 35%. Ito yung mga kababayan natin na talaga naghihirap ngayon dahil sa inflation and mga other things. His numbers are decent at D at 51%, which is the biggest at around 60% of the electorate. And dito makikita mo talaga Sara Duterte, kung wala yung Mindanao, talagang totally hopeless case siya. Her numbers in NCR is 34%. 34% lang sa NCR may gusto kay Sara. Sa buong Luzon, 40% lang yung number niya. Interestingly, in the case of BBM, significantly higher Luzon. No, actually similar sila. Both of them have much higher, but I mean, Sara is still very unpopular. Only 40% Luzon, only 34% in NCR. And to think, ang taas ang numbers ni Sara Duterte back in the day in the NCR when she was running for office. She even had higher than anyone running for the vice president in recent memory. And then, her numbers in Visayas, finally, is majority of 51%. And then dito mo talaga makita, guys, 80%. 80% ng Mindanao ay sumusuporta kay Sara Duterte. So that's essentially ito yung parang ito kunyari parang meron kang estudyante na purong halos baksak yung number pero ang taas niya dun sa isang course lang, sabihin natin GMRC, no? At yung GMRC lang yung nagpaakyat ng average niya. So parang ganun. If not for her 80% in Mindanao, yaring-yari yung number niya. She would be probably the most unpopular vice president since I don't know who, right? But interestingly, Sara has a higher approval among ABC. Sino ba to mga to? But lower approval among D. This is the other interesting, guys. Sara Duterte, though, has a very high approval rating among E, yung poorest of poor Filipinos. So dito mo makita siguro andun pa rin tatak Digong. But nevertheless, the E is a much smaller proportion of the population. D pa rin yung pinakamalaki. But, she's not doing well. Escudero, 60% NCR, but much lower in Luzon. So, reverse trend line there. Visayas, 58%. Ang baba rin ni Escudero sa Mindanao, 44%. And then his highest number is D, 54. He also has the highest number of all the major officials at 45. Ang GMRC po ba? Nakita ko kasi kanina yung mga nag-aasaran kami ni Lacson dati, si Panfilo Thesaurus Lacson. Yung parang pag nagpo-post yan, ang dami ng mga synonyms. Ang galing mag-research ng synonyms. Anyway, GMRC. Nakapasa lang dahil mataas yung GMRC. Oy, friendships na. Tama yan. Tapos na yung 2020. Natawa lang ako sa mga thesaurus niya. Anyway, anyway, Siri, give me 5 synonyms for what I'm gonna do. Just kidding. Basta alam yun na. Escudero, 58, pero 44% na siya sa Mindanao. So you can see, like, and then dito, mas kawawa pa ito kay BBM. Romualdez in Mindanao is only 13%. I wonder sino sa mga Mindanao po may pro Romualdez. But his NCR is also very low, 24%. His Luzon is 29%. His Visayas is 29%. His ABC is only 20%. His D is 25%. His East 20%. Ewan ko talaga kung may balak pa itong tumakbong numbers in terms of trust ratings. BBM has a 53%, so very similar, almost echo each other. 53% in NCR, 62% Luzon, 14% lang sa Mindanao. Sara very similar, 34% lang NCR, but lower yung Luzon niya in terms of trust rating. So actually, Sara has even a bigger trouble when it comes to trust rating in Luzon and the broader Solid North. Her Visayas 47% and Mindanao is 81%. Dito, Chizo Escudero, mas pogi, 60% pa rin sa trust. Sa NCR, 54% Luzon, 54% Visayas, 38% lang sa Mindanao. Bakit kaya yun ang mga taga Mindanao kay Cheese? Ayaw ba nila ng cheese? Ayaw nila yung mga magandang eyebrows, gano'n, 'di ba? And ano naman, si speaker naman, 21%, 24, 25, 14% lang. At sa ABC, 40%, si BBM, 43%, si SARA, and 45% sa statistical tied. 17 lang si speaker. Sa D, statistically tied si BBM, Sara, and Escudero, 49, 47, 52. Pero sa E talaga makikita mo guys, ito yung difference. So the other interesting thing here is that sa E, malakas talagang trust rating ni Sara, except, the E is a relatively small portion of the population, around 20% or so, at 67% in Sara's case versus 33% Marcos, 51% just Escudero, and only 20% in the case of Martin Romualdez. Now, papunta na tayo sa exciting part, guys. So, in the meantime, guys, pagtitignan naman natin ang oh my goodness. Senate race. Senate race, very interesting. Very interesting ang Senate race. Nothing surprising at all. Nandiyan na naman yung mga usual suspects. But yun nga, talagang mutually destructive ang nangyari dito. It's absolutely clear here, guys. Makikita mo talaga na sobrang apektado yung both groups. And Sarah is doing very bad. Very, very bad yung numbers ni Sarah. It's really her Mindanao numbers that keep her somehow, her neck above water, diba? So, Sarah went from 61% trust rating to 49%. That's a double-digit decline. Ang laki niyan. Nosedive din siya sa mga ibang areas in the size from 74% to 47%. Luzon and Metro Manila, from 47% to 37%, right? So, I don't know. Medyo nakikita natin. Finally, I think it's having an effect. We're seeing here na hindi kasing Teflon ni Sara Duterte, like her dad. Hindi siya kasing Teflon. Clearly, she's looking vulnerable. And kung umaasa yun sa people power, mga kaek-ekan, yung mga NTF, LCAC, ek-ek, ganyan. Malabo talaga. Wala akong mangyari yan. At saka lalo-lalo sa Luzon, mahina talaga si Sara Duterte dito comparatively. And nowhere close to where her dad was at this, actually throughout his presidency. Laki ng baksak niya eh. And I mean, now, obviously the question is, okay, she's not doing well, so what? Well, I think here makikita natin malakas talagang tatak ng Tulfo. No? So Erwin Tulfo still is number one for the Senate race, closely followed by Tito Soto at number 2. Ito naman yung survey between November 26 and December 3. So Erwin Tulfo is at 62.2%. I think he improves because I remember a few months ago, 2 quarters ago, his numbers were down to around 54%, mga ganun. So that tells you guys a lot about how durable the Tulfo brand is. And if anything, even if tumakbo si Ben Tulfo, mataas pa rin ang number niya. Soto is statistically tied almost at 59%. Bongo, interestingly, is third. Wow, at 54%, but statistically tied with Ben Tulfo. So, sigurado na yan. Halos sigurado na yan na Ben and Erwin ay pasok. It's just a question of what's gonna be the arrangement. Pasok din si Cayetano. Pasok din si Pacquiao at 45%. Panfilo Lacson, yan. GMRC, 44%. Eto na guys, ito na mga favorite nyo. Willie Revillame, 43.6% na ating mga kaubayan ay gusto nila, base dito sa survey na yan, na si Willie Revillame maging senador natin. Ito yung si Willie, mamaya mo nang itanong anong gagawin ko sa Senado pag nanalo na tayo, Revillame. Right? So, it's like, 20 years of my, sa totoo lang, para mas para mas believe ka pa kay Ben, sa totoo lang. Si Erwin naman, in fairness, it's interesting that he's keeping a very high number in spite of the fact that he's part of the admin, and that admin, of course, is quite unpopular at this point in time. So that tells you about his own strength. And then ito dito makikita mo talaga na patayan na talaga dito yan. Abby Binay, Amy Marcos, goodness, Lito Lapid is still running. I mean, between 7th to 14th, right? Bato de la Rosa po ay medyo labas na. Ang katapat ni Bato de la Rosa ay si um, uh, ano, si mommy, si daddy, naniwala po kami sa pamilya namin. Ayan, si Camille Villar. Si Camille Villar. I mean, ang suggestion ko kay Camille Villar, every time magpo-post siya na may mga landscape sa likod niya, 'di ba? Magjo-joke siya na wala naman kaming balak na gawa ng ano diyan, 'di ba? I mean, you should humor the thing, right? But ito si Camille Unlimited Fun Villar is at 36.5%. The only millennial. Wait, bakit wala yung mga kaibigan natin? No, just kidding. So yan, very close yung fight. But yeah, so officially we have two of the leading surveys, if not the two leading authoritative surveys in the country, SWS and Pulse Asia, showing, I think this is the most important thing, A, that the Tulfos and the Sotos are really vying for number one spot, but B, Willie Revilla has a very good chance of becoming the next senator of the Republic of the Philippines, even if he didn't even bother to tell us what on earth he's gonna do. I'm not even sure if he knows what on earth is the job of the senator, but who cares, right? Who cares? At the same time, kitang-kita natin na among the DDS group, pinaka-competitive pa rin si Bongo, and then Bato medyo alanganin, Amy Marcos medyo alanganin, Binay medyo alanganin, Villar medyo alanganin, and who knows, even Lito Lapid could be medyo alanganin. So that raises some bigger question, right? Para sa akin, this fluidity we're seeing right now, this mutual destruction between the BBM and Duterte side, this fluidity in terms of from number 5 onwards sa Senate, means that actually, malaki ang room for improvement ng genuine opposition. Kiko, for instance, ay medyo pasok na, I think, in SWS, to a certain degree, but more importantly, dun kay yung ano yung sa Publicus Asia, parang sounds like Pulse Asia. And then, if I'm not mistaken, Bam is also not doing too bad. He's keeping it competitive within top 20. But yun nga, ang hirap yung from 5 to 12. Sobrang hirap yan. But nevertheless, we can see that at least Kiko and Bam are competitive. I'm yet to see an authoritative survey for party list, but I won't be surprised if Chel and Mamayan Liberal ni Senator De Lima are not doing too bad. What I'm saying here is that there's an opening. There's an opening. It's very, very interesting. Right? Because I don't know, guys. Once upon a time, people thought na Teflon ng mga Dutertes. Once upon a time, akala ng tao na kung admin ka, in the Philippines, you're gonna have a very long honeymoon. And yet, you see BBM, barely 3 years into office, ang baba ng approval ratings niya. Way lower than both Digong and Sara Duterte. So as much as we can raise our eyebrows on Willie Revilla or something like that for the Senate, it looks like at least there's a fluidity on the bigger question of who should be the next president of the Philippines. And I think that's precisely where Lenny, Riza, other progressive leaders can say something. But if you're Rafi Tulfo right now, who's already number one in a couple of pre-election surveys for 2028, you'll also feel very, very good about what you're seeing. That actually, as these two houses mutually destroy each other, it provides a room for the rise of Tulfos. But as I said, there's also room for others to rise. On that note, thank you very much, mga kameta. Super, super salamat for your support throughout the year. When I went through the pictures and videos and all of that, talagang nararamdaman natin ang inyong pagmamahal at suporta. Malapit ng Christmas, baka naman, gusto niyo naman, supportahan yung mga pages natin in your way. Meaning, follow us, share to other people. Please feel free to recommend our pages and all to other people and give them the caveat. Oh, si Richard, seryoso yan sa totoong buhay, day job niya sa TV, sa newspaper, pero pag gusto niya medyo kalog, medyo interesting, dito naman kayo sa kanyang page. On that note, thank you very much, guys. Have a lovely and blessed Sabbath day. And soon, of course, pag-usapan din natin ang, kausapin natin yung mga two of the greatest historians of the Philippines, God willing, on Monday or so. And then, of course, Christmas na. So thank you so much for all your support, for all your, stickers and stars and everyone for their gifts and well wishes and yung mga nagsha-shoutout dyan, yung mga sumusuporta dyan, people praying for us, praying for Lola's soul. Obviously, this Christmas is different because, Lola is not among us. At the same time, we're here to celebrate her legacy, and in my own little way, I hope that Lola is proud of what I'm doing here, and or at least will be more proud of what we do here as we try to improve ourselves and constantly evolve dito sa ating approach on our podcast. But don't also forget to follow us on Spotify, Deep Dive with Richard Hidarian, and Richard Hidarian Vlogs naman on YouTube. Legit na tayo, nasa Wikipedia na yung YouTube natin. So that tells you, maybe. Thank you very much. God bless, and talk to you soon. Salamat po. Thank you very much po. Maraming salamat for your stickers and support po. God bless po. God bless po. Talk to you soon.